It is 3:22 a.m. The Red Sea, between the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the latitude of Hodeidah, is a corridor that the world's shipping industry has been navigating in a state of calculated anxiety for 15 months. Since the campaign of maritime interdiction conducted by Houthi forces began in late 2023, the southern Red Sea has been transformed from one of the planet's most transited commercial waterways into something else. A space where the geometry of a voyage must be computed not just in terms of weather and fuel efficiency, but in terms of threat arcs and standoff ranges, and the question of whether the cargo is worth the risk of the route. Tonight, the question is not abstract. The convoy moving north through the Red Sea consists of 4 vessels, 2 container ships carrying humanitarian relief cargo, food, medical equipment, shelter materials, operating under World Food Program authorization, 1 commercial bulk carrier transiting under the protection of the escort arrangement that Fifth Fleet has been maintaining in the southern Red Sea since the first week of Operation Epic Fury, when the Houthi command assessed that the American campaign against Iran created a strategic opening to escalate maritime operations and demonstrate solidarity with Tehran at a cost the movement calculated as acceptable. The 4th vessel is the USS Guided Missile Destroyer, running 1.4 nautical miles ahead of the convoy on a track that puts it between the threat axis to the east, the Yemeni coastline 42 nautical miles away, and the humanitarian cargo it has been tasked to protect. The commanding officer has been on the bridge since 2 a.m. The watch rotation brought him up not because the schedule required it, but because the intelligence product delivered at 1:47 a.m. required a senior decision-maker's eyes on the picture. The intelligence product identified a significant increase in Houthi communications activity along the Yemeni coastal defense network over the past 90 minutes. Not encrypted communications, the Houthi tactical communications infrastructure does not use sophisticated encryption. What it uses is volume and pattern, and the volume and pattern of the last 90 minutes has been read by the signals intelligence operators aboard the destroyer as consistent with a pre-launch coordination sequence. The CO has seen this pattern before. He has seen it 6 times in the past 11 days. 3 of those times, the pattern preceded a launch. 3 times it did not. He is operating, therefore, at exactly the level of certainty that the intelligence environment provides. Enough to take it seriously, not enough to know precisely what is coming, and completely sufficient to understand that the next decision point will not arrive with more warning than this. At 3:24 a.m., the SPY-1D radar picks up the first airborne contacts. They emerge from the Yemeni coastal terrain at low altitude, not ballistic trajectories, not the steep climb of a missile launch, but the flat, persistent tracks of platforms moving at subsonic speed below 1,000 feet. Drones. The radar processor counts them as they separate from the ground clutter of the coastal mountains. 4, 6, 9. At 3:25 a.m., there are 11 distinct tracks spread across a bearing arc of approximately 40 degrees, moving northwest at speeds between 120 and 160 knots. Their projected courses converge on the convoy's current position in approximately 19 minutes, the watch officer reports. The CO is already at the tactical display. At 3:25:44 a.m., the SPY-1D detects a fundamentally different contact type. From further south along the Yemeni coast, from a launch point that the fire control system locates approximately 60 nautical miles away, a ballistic track climbs into the lower atmosphere on a trajectory that the computer resolves in 4 seconds. An anti-ship ballistic missile, not a drone. A weapon moving at multiple times the speed of sound on a descent curve, aimed at the convoy's projected position in approximately 7 minutes and 20 seconds. 7 minutes and 20 seconds is the entire duration available to address a ballistic missile with intercept solutions that require track acquisition, fire control solution development, and engagement execution. 7 minutes and 20 seconds is also when 11 drones are simultaneously inbound at 19 minutes. A number that means the ballistic threat must be addressed first, and the drone threat must be managed in parallel which means the destroyer's fire control system must run simultaneous engagement geometries against two threat classes moving at fundamentally different speeds from fundamentally different vectors and requiring fundamentally different intercept solutions. The TAO initiates weapons free at 3:25:51 a.m., 7 seconds from detection to authorization. The voice that delivers the order is level. The hands that execute it are steady. The bodies of the crew in the CIC are not relaxed. They are tensed in the particular way of professionals who have learned that tension directed properly is not a liability, but a form of precision, the physical state of a system running at maximum useful output. The first SM-3 exits the forward VLS cell at 3:26:08 a.m. The deck plates of the destroyer transmit the launch as a vibration that begins in the keel and moves upward through the hull and into the feet of every person standing in the ship. It is not a comfortable sensation. It is not supposed to be. It is the sensation of a ship doing what it was built to do, spending one of its most expensive capabilities against a threat that its designers anticipated and that its crew is now required to address in real time rather than in a simulator. The SM-3's exhaust plume is invisible in the dark. The thermal cameras track it upward. The SPY-1D tracks the ballistic target inbound. The intercept geometry runs in the fire control computer with a speed and precision that no human being could replicate, building the solution that will place the kill vehicle in the path of the re-entry vehicle at a point in space above the Red Sea that currently contains nothing except dark air and a problem that needs to be solved. The second SM-3 fires at 3:26:31 a.m. 2 rounds against one ballistic target is the doctrine, the double tap that provides a backup if the primary intercept fails, that accounts for the irreducible uncertainty in a kinetic engagement against a high-speed maneuvering warhead. 2 rounds are also 2 fewer cells available for the drone engagement that is still 17 minutes out and closing. At 3:27:44 a.m., the first SM-3 intercepts the ballistic re-entry vehicle at altitude. The detonation registers on the thermal cameras as a brief bright event that the CIC watchstander annotates in the log as primary intercept confirmed. The debris field is tracked. The second SM-3 is called off. Its seeker has lost the target signature because the target no longer exists. The round self-destructs per programmed protocol. 2 SM-3s expended. 1 ballistic threat neutralized. The engagement clock resets to the drone swarm, which is now 16 minutes out. At 3:28 a.m., the Houthi command executes the adaptation the intelligence assessors had assessed as possible but had not confirmed. From the coastal launch network, a second ballistic contact climbs. Then a third, 30 seconds later. 2 additional ballistic missiles, staggered in time to force the destroyer to engage them sequentially, depleting the SM-3 inventory in the forward VLS cells against threats that are, individually, less dangerous than the drone swarm, but that collectively represent an arithmetic problem. The destroyer has a finite number of SM-3 rounds, and the adversary has calculated that number and designed a launch sequence intended to reach its bottom. This is the desperation move. Not a single surprise, but a systematic one, the application of calculated resource exhaustion against a ship whose capabilities are known. The Houthi command has spent 15 months studying American destroyer capabilities in the Red Sea. They know the SM-3 loadout. They know the ESSM capacity. They know the CIWS engagement envelope. They are not firing randomly. They are solving an equation. The second ballistic missile is engaged at 3:28:47 a.m. 2 SM-3s down the rail. The intercept is clean. The third ballistic contact presents at 3:29:19 a.m. and the TAO runs the inventory. The forward cells have capacity for 1 more SM-3 salvo. After that, the ballistic engagement layer depends on the cruiser, which is operating as part of a separate convoy escort element 12 nautical miles to the south and whose engagement geometry against a threat this far north is at the edge of its optimal range. The TAO makes a decision that will appear in the after-action review as a significant tactical judgment call. She fires one SM-3 against the third ballistic contact rather than two, holding the second round as insurance, accepting a marginally lower intercept probability against the third missile in order to preserve at least one SM-3 for any additional ballistic launch. She reports the decision to the CO in a sentence. The CO concurs in one word. The single SM-3 engages the third ballistic contact at 3:30:12 a.m. The kill vehicle finds the target. The intercept is confirmed. The TAO allows herself the recognition, but not the relief, that the single-round decision was validated. Validation after the fact is not the same as the correct decision. The correct decision was made at 3:29:19 a.m. with incomplete information in real time under load. That is where decisions actually live. The drone swarm is now 11 minutes out. The MH-60R Seahawk that has been orbiting ahead of the convoy at 1,500 feet since 2:30 a.m. repositions to the east and descends to 700 feet, its forward infrared camera painting the incoming drone formation on the cockpit display. 11 tracks spread across a 40-degree arc, moving at altitudes between 200 and 600 feet. The formation is not uniform. The drones are not flying in a geometric pattern. They are offset and staggered in a way that the lead pilot recognizes, after 11 days of Red Sea operations, as a deliberate attempt to complicate the fire control geometry, to present the ship's ESSM system with aspect angles and crossing rates that change faster than optimal track solutions can be maintained. The lead pilot activates the laser designator and begins painting the lead drone in the formation. He is flying at 700 feet over dark water at night in a helicopter that is the most visible and most exposed asset in the engagement geometry. He is aware of this. He continues painting the target because the ship's fire control system performs better with the laser quality data his designator provides, and the ship performing better is the purpose of his being here. At 3:31 a.m., the destroyer begins ESSM engagements against the outer edge of the drone swarm. The rounds come off the rail in a sequence that the weapons officer manages from her console in the CIC, calling solutions and authorizing fires in a rhythm that the watch describes as mechanical in its precision and nothing like mechanical in its cognitive load. First, ESSM round. Track confirmed. Second round. Third. The drone formation thins at its leading edge. One track disappears. 2. 4. At 3:33 a.m., the ESSM launcher on the forward mount experiences a feed interruption. The round in the launch cycle fails to exit the launcher. The weapons officer calls it immediately. The gunner's mate working the mount performs the emergency clearance procedure. The procedure takes 31 seconds. 31 seconds, during which the ESSM forward launcher is offline and the drone swarm is at 7 nautical miles and closing at a combined closure rate that makes 31 seconds a significant operational gap. The aft ESSM launcher compensates. Its engagement arc is less favorable for the current threat geometry. The drones are approaching from the east, and the aft launcher must work through aspect angles that are not optimal. But it fires and it engages, and 3 more drone tracks disappear from the screen during the 31 seconds that the forward launcher is offline. The feed interruption clears at 3:33:49 a.m. The forward launcher resumes firing, but 4 drones have used the gap. 4 platforms in the swarm executed acceleration during the engagement lull, closing from 7 nautical miles to 4 in the time the forward launcher was offline. They are now inside the optimal ESSM engagement band and moving toward the CIWS zone. The weapons officer designates all 4 for CIWS engagement and shifts fire control authority to the close-in systems. The phalanx systems on the destroyer's port side track the 4 incoming drones with the mechanical indifference of systems that do not register urgency. The 20mm rotary cannons spin up. The first engagement fires at 3:34 and 11 seconds a.m. The burst catches the lead drone at 2.3 nautical miles. The second fires at 2.1 miles. The third is struck at 1.8 miles, but absorbs the initial burst without losing flight capability. It is a larger airframe, heavier, carrying more fuel and more structure than the smaller Houthi platforms, and the CIWS burst that would have destroyed a smaller drone has damaged but not stopped it. The fourth ESSM round from the now operational forward launcher fires and intercepts it at 1.4 miles. The fourth drone, the fourth in the group of four that use the engagement gap, comes in from the north, slightly outside the primary threat arc, on a heading that places it against the convoy's second container ship rather than the destroyer. The Seahawk's lead pilot sees it first. At 700 feet at night, the Seahawk is between the drone and the container ship by approximately 600 meters. The lead pilot calls the contact to the CIC at 3:34:28 a.m. The CIC has it. The CIWS on the destroyer's port bow engages. The burst fires at 1.1 nautical miles. The drone is destroyed at 0.9 miles. Its debris falls into the Red Sea 700 meters off the container ship's port bow. On the container ship's bridge, the debris impact produces a sound that the ship's master will describe in his incident report as a series of impacts, like hail. Metal fragments from a drone that no one on his bridge ever saw coming out of the dark sky, neutralized by a weapon system on a warship 700 meters away, scattered across the surface of the sea in the last 40 meters of a threat arc that began 60 nautical miles to the east. The humanitarian cargo in the hold is undamaged. The crew is uninjured. The ship is still moving north. By 3:35 a.m., the last of the 11 drone tracks has been removed from the tactical picture. The engagement has lasted 11 minutes and 12 seconds from the moment the first drone contact appeared on the SPY-1D to the moment the last track disappeared. The destroyer has expended 5 SM-3 rounds, 3 against ballistic threats, 2 against the second wave, 14 ESSM rounds, and approximately 280 rounds of 20mm CIWS ammunition. The forward ESSM launcher experienced a 31-second feed interruption that created the most dangerous moment of the engagement. The Seahawk has been airborne for 1 hour and 5 minutes in the engagement window and is approaching its endurance limit. The TAO completes the force-wide weapon status at 3:36 a.m. The picture is not comfortable. The SM-3 inventory in the forward VLS cells is depleted to a level that makes any additional ballistic threat engagement dependent on the cruiser to the south. The ESSM count is at 61% of capacity. The destroyer can sustain another engagement of this scale with existing magazine depth, but not 2, not 3. The Houthi operational tempo over the past 11 days has been averaging 1.7 engagement events per 24 hours. The current watch has 5 hours remaining before rotation. The math is not an alarm, but it is a fact, and the TAO records it as 1. At 3:41 a.m., the CO transmits a post-engagement report to 5th Fleet. The report covers the ballistic and drone engagements, the weapons expenditure, the ESSM feed interruption, and the current magazine state. It requests expedited logistics coordination for at-sea replenishment within the next 48 hours. The request is acknowledged at 3:49 a.m., with a replenishment window assigned for 36 hours from now. 36 hours, the convoy moves north through the Red Sea. The humanitarian cargo in the holds of the 2 WFP vessels is undisturbed. The bulk carrier's crew, who have been in their muster stations since 3:24 a.m., are released to normal watch standing at 3:47 a.m. They emerge onto their bridge and into a night that smells of salt and looks, from their position, exactly like any other night in the Red Sea at this hour. Dark water. Stars where the haze allows them. The running lights of the destroyer ahead, steady and white against the dark. What happened between 3:24 a.m. and 3:35 a.m. is not visible from the bridge of the bulk carrier. The engagement existed in the space between radar screens and fire control solutions, and CIWS burst patterns, and the 31 seconds, a feed mechanism jammed in a launcher housing and a gunner's mate cleared it with trained hands in the dark. The cargo ship knows only that the escort is still ahead and the sea is still open and the night is passing. At 3:52 a.m., the lead pilot brings the Seahawk out of its eastern patrol position and repositions to the north, resuming the screen ahead of the convoy. He has been in the aircraft for 5 hours and 41 minutes. The aircrewman beside him is writing the contact log. The log is detailed and precise. It records bearing, range, altitude, and engagement outcome for each of the 11 drone contacts. It does not record the 31 seconds of ESSM feed interruption as anything other than a technical event with a start time and a clear time, because that is what it was, and the operational record is a document of what happened, not what it felt like to be inside it while it was happening. 3 ballistic missiles, 11 attack drones, 5 SM-3 rounds, 14 ESSM rounds, 280 20mm rounds, 31 seconds with a launcher offline, 4 vessels still moving north, 0 humanitarian cargo lost, 0 crew fatalities, 0 convoy vessels struck. The Red Sea is not a safe waterway. It has not been a safe waterway for 15 months. What makes it passable tonight is not the absence of threats. The threats are real, they are organized, and they are guided by a command that has spent 15 months learning American destroyer capabilities and designing attacks intended to exceed them. What makes it passable is a crew that has absorbed that knowledge and built a response that is one calculation ahead of it, every engagement, at a cost measured in expended rounds and maintenance hours and the accumulated exhaustion of sailors who have been doing this for 11 consecutive days and will do it again tomorrow night. The convoy does not stop. The escort does not yield. In the Red Sea at 3:52 a.m., that is the only fact that matters. The humanitarian cargo reaches its destination because someone stood between it and the threat and refused to move. That is not a metaphor. It is a description of what happened.